Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is AI replacing doctors. Now, our poor radiology colleagues were already supposed to be replaced years ago now, so it's surprising that they've hung on this far. All jokes aside, everyone did say that radiology would be the first specialty to go, and now what you see is there's more radiologists than ever. Although AI has certainly helped in terms of the amount of scans they can analyze and the amount of work that they can get done. And the reason I want to talk about this is because as a relatively younger doctor, I've been a lot more open to AI and learning it and seeing what it's about. But a lot of my older, more experienced colleagues, just like you see with any other invention and step forward in medicine, they seem to be fighting against it. When EMRs came out, nobody wanted to do it. They wanted to stick to paper. It was easier, it was more natural. And now with I find that, at least in my own experience, my younger colleagues, they're down for it, they use it, they somewhat humbly fear it, like I do. And then the older crowd, they either think it's useless or it's far away or it takes away from medicine in how it's traditionally practiced. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know what ultimately the landscape is going to look like if all doctors are just going to be literally robots running AI algorithms and we live in a dystopia, or if it's going to top out at an augmenting agent that helps you do your job and nothing more than that. I truly don't know. But what I do know is that AI is here. It's here to stay. Today is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better. And last but not least, certainly not least, what might be most important is the fact that there is a lot of money to be made in healthcare. And anywhere there's money to be made, you can bet that if AI can help people make money in that space, they're going to do it. So my recommendation to you would be, instead of fighting AI and pretending that it's not very good or it's not very useful or no, I just don't want to use it, I suggest that you make friends with AI, accept that it's here and learn it and use it to your benefit rather than being left behind out of some ego or believing that you truly have control over how the healthcare system is going to run. Anything that increases productivity, anything that makes hospital systems and healthcare systems more money or saves them money, your feelings aside, it's going to happen. Speaking of which, if you check the description, we're working on a AI education platform called Layman AI, which basically just breaks down how to use it and what it is in simple English for people with no background in computer science or coding, just like me. But that's the first thing. You got to stop fighting it. You need to learn it. You need to learn how it works, what it's about. Again, I mentioned Layman AI. Anthropic also has an entire series. Those are the people that made Claude. They have a great series of courses on SkillJar that'll walk you through it. There's another course called AI for Everyone. I believe that's by Deep Learning. It's by some AI professor. And again, this will teach you the basic foundations of what you're actually working with and why you don't need to be scared of it, but you do definitely need to understand how it works and how you can apply it in your own career and in your own life. Now, another argument that some people seem to have is that, well, AI can't really replace doctors because you need that human element. It's not like it's a simple list of tasks that make up being a physician. And that's true to some extent, but if you look at your day to day, it's essentially made up of several different tasks that can actually be at least augmented by an AI, if not completely replaced. So think about your last clinic day or your last call shift or whenever you last saw patients. You had a bunch of tasks that you did to overall complete your job as a physician. So if you think about it, this is just a simple collection of things that I thought of from the top of my head, but there's probably more. Whenever you see a single patient, you're taking a history, you're doing a physical exam, you're looking through old records, you're coming up with a differential. You're deciding which investigations you want to order. You're interpreting those investigations. You're making a decision based on those investigations and the overall story. Then you're explaining all that in simple terms to the patient. And then you're documenting everything that you did. So that's like 9 tasks within the overall title of being a physician. So it's not so much the fear of AI in one go taking over everything that you do, but when you break it down into these tasks, it can probably do any one of these tasks really well right now, maybe with the exception of a physical exam. And the reason I'm breaking it down this way is because I want you to see, after you learn the basics and the foundations of AI and how it works, you need to decide, how can it help you in your day-to-day right now? Wouldn't it be amazing if your EMR had an AI function that summarized the patient's old records from 10 different hospitals, 5 different pharmacies, and you know exactly, summarized, what medication they're on, what medical conditions they have, what investigations they've had? How much time do we waste just digging through a chart, trying to figure out and decipher what actually happened in this patient's life previously? Differential diagnosis. Every single day you should be using AI, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, Open Evidence, even if it's the most simple, straightforward diagnosis, it's impossible to keep up with every single new paper and research that comes out every day. AI can do that though. So even if it's your bread and butter and your specialty, go ahead and put in the chatbot, obviously without any patient information, but use the tools. Here's what I think. Let me put it into AI. Let's see what the latest research is. Let's see what answer it's giving me. Even if you're right and it's wrong, well, then at least you know how to decipher what it's telling you and how to guide patients through what the AI is telling them. Because these days you'll notice, especially in the urgent clinic when I'm working there, before it used to be people Googled everything and they came in expecting certain things or having an idea of what they might be dealing with. And now it's all AI. Hey, ChatGPT told me this. I think I need this test. And so it helps you to be well informed, knowing how these tools work and using them to your advantage. And remember, you're not just a player on the sidelines. You can be active in this space as well. People are vibe coding every single day now. We have AI scribes now. AI can spit out an infographic for you. It can make a patient education booklet for you. Of course, you should be the one reviewing it for accuracy and making sure the sources it's giving you are accurate. But already today, there are tons of ways that it can save you time and make your life easier. And you should absolutely be using it every single day. I use an AI scribe every single day. I use the chatbots to work through differentials, the current recommendations. And again, the key is making sure that it's giving you accurate information from good sources. And that's your responsibility because ultimately the liability is on you as well. But my point is, find a way to involve AI in your day-to-day tasks, even if it feels like it slows you down at the beginning, because it'll teach you the language of AI and how to work with it. And then if you are so keen as to design or build your own thing, then you can do that too. All these AI scribes, they were built by somebody. If you notice a shortage or an area of need in your own practice where you're doing something repetitive and annoying every day and there's no solution for it, you can literally build that. So if you'll notice from those tasks, they're very repetitive. They rely on information and recall, and these are things that the AI, frankly, is just better than us at already. And so the things that survive are the ones that, at least for now, AI can't do, which is being present with the patient, providing support to them humanistically, using your experience and judgment to decide what the right next step is, not just based on raw information. Procedures, it's going to be a while. Physical exams, it's going to be a while until we have robotics, and then those have to be approved. And the one place that we're lucky in healthcare is that there is a lot of red tape and bureaucracy. Things have to be approved before certain changes are made. So the speed of which AI is implemented in healthcare is probably going to be slower than it is in other areas. And usually the bureaucracy and the red tape is very annoying, but in this case, it's actually pretty protective for physicians. So again, whatever you can safely outsource to it or have it augment in your practice, let it do that and learn how to use it. But you focus on everything that it cannot do and mastering those skills. Now, in keeping with not fighting against it and learning how it works and using it every day, you need to learn how to use the tools better, meaning that what might have been your competitive advantage before, which was your knowledge, where you trained, now we're seeing, at least in the corporate world, the advantage becomes who's better at using these AI tools and ultimately being more productive. So if I own a clinic and I see I can hire a physician who has experience using AI tools, they're comfortable using AI scribes and chatbots and building resources with AI for patients, I'm going to hire them over somebody who has no idea what AI is and isn't willing to use it, simply because at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of these things are businesses. They want to look for productivity. So to give you an example, one of the urgent clinic positions I work at, it's a 75-25 split, meaning of the billings for that day, I keep 75% and the clinic keeps 25% as the overhead. Now, if I'm using AI tools and that increases my efficiency to where I can see 10 patients in an hour, whereas before I was seeing 6 patients an hour, then obviously I'm a more productive asset for the clinic. And it's weird to think about doctors this way, but it's just the reality of how healthcare works. So as you can imagine, if I'm one of these clinics or I own one of these clinics, I want a few AI capable physicians rather than a bunch of non-AI capable physicians. It's less staffing and scheduling that I have to worry about. It's more overhead produced for me. And it makes it easier both on the owner side and the physician is being more efficient and making more billings. So you have to keep in mind always the reality of medicine in the Western world is that it is a business and the numbers matter. And AI, by outsourcing those repetitive tasks, by augmenting all the other tasks, it makes you more productive. Maybe not immediately because like with anything else, there's a learning curve. It takes time for things to be adapted properly, but eventually that's the idea. Now, the other thing is to work on your skill of judgment. And that's essentially what being a physician comes down to, especially these days. These models are going to have better, more accurate, newer information than you do. I don't care how good you are at memorizing. And that's basically all med school has been, is memorizing and regurgitating, and that's all you've been doing throughout your schooling so far. But the real skill of a physician and what separates you from one of these chatbots is the skill of judgment, knowing when to apply the information, knowing when to go against what the information is saying. And again, this is where that humanistic aspect comes in. If I have a 98-year-old coming in with pneumonia who's telling me that, you know what, I've lived a long enough life. If this can be easily reversible, I'd like treatment for it. But if I'm getting worse, I want to be kept comfortable and I'd like to pass. Those are my goals of care. While an AI, if it's just analyzing the raw information, hey, this is a 98-year-old, this is what medical conditions they have. They've been diagnosed with pneumonia, so we need to give IV antibiotics, oxygen, breathing therapy. And if they're not doing well, they're going to the ICU for breathing support and potentially resuscitation if it comes down to it. That's the raw, correct answer, strictly medically speaking, physiologically, mechanistically. However, in the context of that patient and keeping in mind their values and what their goals are, yeah, I'm going to give them antibiotics and some breathing treatments, but if they're declining, I'm not going to reach out to the ICU physician. I'm not going to do CPR because that's not what they want. And that's where that judgment aspect comes in. If I have a patient with heart failure and technically, based on the guidelines, they should be on an SGLT2 inhibitor. Well, yeah, but this patient's had numerous UTIs that are bothersome for them, or they've ended up in the hospital because of them. And all of a sudden, regardless of what the guidelines say, now it's a matter of judgment and discussing with that patient what the risks and benefits are of either option and making an informed decision. These are just some examples, but the point is that your key skill that separates you, at least for now, is your judgment and discretion of when to apply what information. You will not win on memorization and knowing more information. That's not possible. That's like trying to beat a calculator at arithmetic. So work on your skill, especially if you're at the med student resident level. Work on that skill of discernment and knowing when to do what thing, not just what to do. Now, even though I'm telling you to use these tools as much as you possibly can, one thing to watch out for is making sure that you don't outsource your thinking and your problem solving. You should still always rely on your own knowledge, come up with your own differentials, your own plans, and then use AI to augment that. Hey, did I miss anything? Am I not considering something? Are there newer sources available or data available that I could consider? It only comes afterwards. One of the problems with AI is if you use it for everything and it's doing all your thinking for you, you kind of lose that ability. It's like a muscle, like anything else. If you don't practice with it, you're going to lose that ability. And the last thing you want when you're in an acute situation, patient's not doing well, you don't want to be sitting there with your phone trying to figure out what's going on. You don't want to lose that skill of being on your toes, being able to think and problem solve. The only way you're going to keep that skill is by practicing it. So make sure that if you are going to use these AI tools, they're only augmenting, they're only getting rid of repetitive, non-important tasks. They're not just doing your entire thinking for you. Because if you're just acting on what a chatbot tells you or treating it like it's the most accurate thing ever and nothing could ever be wrong with it, well, then what's the point? The patient could just talk to the chatbot and be done with it. So again, use it to augment. Even in my practice, whether it's the urgent clinic or the hospital clinic, before I send a referral now to a subspecialist or ask for somebody's help, after I come up with my own differential and my own investigations, I'll ask these chatbots, hey, what am I not considering here? What could I possibly also do to try and solve this problem? And sometimes, not always, but sometimes it'll recommend some tests I didn't think of, or maybe a medical condition that wasn't necessarily on my radar for the patient. And what this allows for is me being able to solve more problems on my own, or if I still want to send to a specialist, it's a more complete workup that they can work with, and it makes for a better referral and overall a more efficient and better experience for the patient. So again, treat it like a teammate. It's not your enemy. Now, we've talked about the importance of people skills before, but it becomes even more important now. As time goes on, these AI chatbots are going to become more and more accurate. They're going to be really good at the differential diagnosis and maybe even the diagnostic part. But what a lot of patients want from their physician is that bedside manner. They want support. They want to know that somebody's on their team and going to help them through something. They don't necessarily want to talk to a robot. They want that humanistic experience, that healing experience, which again is what separates you from AI right now. So you need to go all in on your people skills, your bedside manner, caring for people, your ability to explain things to people without the medical jargon, your ability to encourage people and provide support. All of these things are going to matter more and more as the information aspect gets commoditized. And that ability to build trust is what separates us from the robots. And the key thing is, I don't know the data behind this, but I suspect that as time goes on, there's this feeling that, oh, doctors can't be replaced because people want to talk to people. They don't want to talk to robots. I'm not entirely sure that that's true. Sure, if I had a choice and all else being equal, yeah, I'd rather talk to a person than a robot to solve my problem. But if my options are that I could sit in the ER for 12 hours without being seen, or I could chat with the robot and have my problem solved. Sign me up for chatting with the robot and solving my problem. At the end of the day, people just want their problems fixed and they can move on with their lives. And I suspect as we get into a day and age where the majority of patients we're dealing with, they grew up with the internet and social media and they're used to interacting with these tools. I suspect we're going to see that less and less where people care so much about, hey, I need to see a person. No, I think it's going to go towards, hey, I just want my problem solved in the fastest, most efficient way possible. And whether that's a robot or a person who does it, I really don't care. At least that's my hypothesis. But for now, I would highly recommend working on your people skills and learning how to communicate well, and more so being able to interpret and translate information for your patients into a language that they can understand. Now, especially if you're a resident or a student, please do not use AI as a shortcut. It's going to feel good in the moment. It's probably going to make your med school experience a lot easier just looking things up without even thinking about it. You're only screwing yourself over. Because like I said, regardless of what type of physician you decide to be, there are going to be moments where you have to think on your toes and make decisions. And that is a skill that only comes from practice. I don't care how many books you memorize or how well you did on your exams. If you don't use the skill of using all that knowledge in your head and making decisions based on it with incomplete information in high pressure situations, you will never build it. As a hospitalist, there have been 3 a.m. phone calls where this patient's having chest pain, their vitals are not looking so hot. What do you want to do? And in that moment, you have to have an answer and you have to have a plan. And the only way you're going to build the skill of dealing with that is if you actually do it while you're in training. So as I said before, only use AI as an augment after you've already come up with your own plan and thinking. It should never be a substitute for your training. It should act like a bit of a tutor, if anything. And the last thing I'll leave you with is taking ownership and having some forward thinking. As physicians, it's easy to just sit back and focus on the day-to-day, taking care of the patients, and let everyone else decide how things are going to be run, what tools we're going to use, what EMRs we're going to use, and kind of having this stuff imposed on us rather than actually making the decisions. But in this case, with all the resources we have available, like I said, you can learn AI, you can vibe code things, you can build your own thing. That's why I'm encouraging you that you should look at what the gaps are in your own practice, what you see day to day, what problems you think you can solve. And this looks different for everyone. Some of you might want to build that tool and turn it into a business and try and sell it. I don't know. Others might just want to improve the efficiency of their practice. But taking the reins and deciding yourself, here's how I want to run my practice, here's how I want to improve my day-to-day efficiency, and experimenting and playing around and building with these things. And again, just understanding the language of what's going on, it's going to help you a lot. And when it comes to the ownership aspect, obviously everyone's careers are different, but if you can pull off something like owning your own clinic or your own private practice where you're in control, yes, it's more stress, it's more decisions to make. It's most certainly not for everybody, but having that ownership aspect where you're in charge, you're not being dictated to, that's also going to help you a lot. So that's it for this one, you guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Don't fight against AI. It's here to stay, and it's only going to get better. So make friends with it, learn it, and use it to your advantage. Be sure to check out the newsletter and the community in the description. It's all free for now. We're working on some cool stuff there. And let me know what you guys want to hear about next. I'll see you next time. Cheers.